For every American who believes he's going to hell, there are 120 who believe they're going to heaven. The great danger is that people assume they are headed for heaven. Judging by what's said at most funerals, you'd think nearly everyone's going to heaven, wouldn't you? But Jesus made it clear that most people are not going to heaven. It's of paramount importance for someone to make sure they're going to heaven, not hell. The voice that whispers to so many saying, "There's no hurry, you can always think about that later," is not God's voice. He says, now is the day of salvation in 2 Corinthians 6:2.
Jesus explains hell in the most painful of terms. Jesus speaks of hell more than anyone else in the Bible. Jesus likens hell to a place of conscious torment that is eternal and unending. Jesus says that it will be a place where people will be weeping profusely and that they will be gnashing or grinding their teeth in agony.
The reality of hell should break our hearts and take us to our knees and to the doors of those without Christ. Today, however, even among many Bible believers, hell has become the H word, seldom named, rarely talked about. Satan has obvious motives for fueling our denial of eternal punishment. He wants unbelievers to reject Christ without fear, and he wants Christians to be unmotivated to share Christ. If you were giving some friends directions to Denver, and you knew that one road led there, but a second road ended at a sharp cliff around a blind corner, would you talk only of the safe road? No. You would tell them about both, especially if you knew that the road to destruction was wider and more traveled. In fact, it would be terribly unloving not to warn them about the other road. For the same reason, we must not believe Satan's lie that it's unloving to speak to people about hell. The most basic truth there is there's only two possible destinations after death, heaven and hell. Each is just as real and eternal as the other. The most loving thing we can do for our friends and our family is to warn them about the road that leads to destruction and tell them about the road that leads to life. It would upset us, but would we think it unloving if a doctor told us we had a potentially fatal cancer? And would the doctor not tell us if the cancer could be eradicated? Why then do we not tell unsaved people about the cancer of sin and evil and how the inevitable penalty of eternal destruction can be avoided by the atoning sacrifice of Jesus Christ? People shouldn't just cross their fingers and hope their names are written in the book of life. What follows is a story told by Ruthanna Metzger, a professional singer, that hints at the great regret that will accompany those with such a superficial hope of being written in Jesus' book of life.
Several years ago, she was asked to sing at the wedding of a very, very wealthy man. According to the invitation, the reception would be held on the top 2 floors of Seattle's Columbia Tower, the Northwest's tallest skyscraper, and it was even more wonderful than I imagined. There were waiters wearing black snappy tuxedos who offered luscious hors d'oeuvres and exotic beverages for the most discriminating tastes. The atmosphere was one of grace and sophistication. After about an hour of merriment, the bride and groom approached a beautiful glass and brass staircase that led to the top floor. The bride and groom ascended the stairs and the guests followed. What a lavish event of which to be a part. A gentleman with a lovely bound book greeted us as we reached the top of the stairs. "May I have your name, please?" "I am Ruthanna Metzgar, and this is my husband, Roy Metzgar," I replied. The gentleman searched the M's. "I'm not finding it. Would you spell it, please?" I spelled it slowly and clearly. After searching throughout the book, the gentleman looked up and said, "I'm sorry, but your name is not here. Without your name in this book, you cannot attend this banquet." "Oh, there must be some mistake," I replied. "I am the singer. I sang for this wedding." The gentleman calmly answered, "It doesn't matter who you are or what you did. Without your name in the book, you cannot attend this banquet." As I looked around the room, I thought briefly of running to the groom and trying to plead my case. But with 100 guests on the stairs behind us, and every place at the tables assigned according to the thoughtful choices of the bride and groom, I stood silent. The gentleman with the book motioned to a waiter and said, "Show these people to the service elevator, please." We followed the waiter past beautifully decorated tables laden with shrimp, whole smoked salmon, even gracefully carved ice sculptures. And adjacent to the banquet area was an orchestra, its members all dressed in dazzling white tuxedos, preparing to fill the room with glorious music. We were led to the service elevator, stepped in, and the waiter himself pushed G for garage. My husband, thoughtfully, did not say a word, nor did I. As Roy drove out of the Columbia Tower garage, we both remained silent. After driving several miles in silence, Roy reached over and gently put his hand on my arm. "Sweetheart, what happened?" And then I remembered. When the invitation arrived for the reception, I was very busy, and I never bothered to return the RSVP. Besides, I thought, I was the singer. Surely I could go to the reception without returning the RSVP. As we drove on, I began to weep. I was not weeping because I had just missed the most lavish banquet of my life, but I was weeping because suddenly I knew what it would be like someday for people as they stand before the entrance of heaven. People who are too busy to respond to Christ's invitation to his heavenly banquet. People who assumed that the good things they had done, even perfect church attendance or singing in the choir, would be enough to gain entry to heaven. People who will look for their name in the Lamb's Book of Life and not find it there. People who did not have time to respond to Christ's gracious invitation to have their sins forgiven and accept him into their hearts.
To be denied entrance to heaven's wedding banquet will not just mean going down the service elevator to the garage. It will mean being cast outside into hell forever.